What's up, everybody? Thanks for coming. We're a little early. Um, Gonna give it a few minutes before we begin. Hope everybody's doing well and ready for the holidays. Joining me today is our I forget the title. Contracting practitioner,
I'm a senior consultant.
senior consultant, Debbie Norman. She's awesome. She's gonna make sure everything I say is accurate.
Thank you, Charles.
Uh,
I'm feeling Christmassy today.
yeah, it looks very nice. Star on the top of the tree, classic. Chat's working. That's excellent. That was a miscue last month, so I'm great that's going. It's great that's going.
Hi, Kim.
Okay, everybody, I'm going to give it one more minute before we jump in. It looks like people are still rolling in, which is excellent. Again, thank everybody for coming. That's awesome. See lots of familiar names, see some new names. That's wonderful. For anybody who doesn't know that person in the chat, Debbie Williams, she's our customer service extraordinaire in the office. Been with a major difference over 10 years. If you've called in and needed help with a repair, she's the one who's made it happen. I see someone invited a Firefly's note taker. That's no problem. Everybody who registered for the webinar, whether you attend or not, will get an email either end of day today or early next week with a link to the video. We're posting them all on YouTube. You'll also get a copy of the slide deck, a PDF of the slide deck. So no need to take notes if you don't want to. If you like to, by all means, go for it. But you will get a link of the recording and the slide deck. I'm going to share my screen. Going to reposition my monitors before I share my screen. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you all for coming. This is the final webinar in the 2025 webinar series. It's been going very well. Hope everybody's been enjoying it. The IonCleanse by AMD is rated as a non-medical device. These products are not intended to diagnose, prevent, treat, or cure any disease or illness. Consult a qualified healthcare practitioner for medical advice. The IonCleanse by AMD is safe, proven, non-invasive, total body detox. It again, it leads the way in safe and effective detox for total body detoxification. It's safe and non-invasive. We use a medical grade power supply. We have proven results, lots of research on our website, patented technology, 20-year history, and you can find ion cleanses all over the world. Really quickly, we'll talk again about how the ion cleanse works. Okay, how it detoxifies. Um, Voltage gated ion channels are specialized proteins in cell membranes that open or close in response to changes in electrical potential across the membrane, allowing ions to cross the membrane. They are essential for rapid signaling in the nervous system, muscle contraction, and many other physiological processes. So basically, these are the mechanisms for which things can enter and exit the cells in your body. These ion channels can become blocked with charged particles, heavy metals, biotoxins, inflammatory responses, histamines, causing them to no longer function properly. A toxic burden in your body will block these VGICs. Things that need to get into your cell won't be able to, or cells and things your cells need to get rid of, they won't be able to. The ion cleanse frees up or mobilizes these toxins that are stored in your body and blocking these ion channels. Once these toxins are mobilized, the ion cleanse helps eliminate these toxins from your body. These toxins are eliminated from your body in two ways. The ion cleanse creates charged particles or ions in the water of the foot bath using electrolysis. These ions mobilize the toxins in the body and draw some of those toxins into the water through the body. It's gentle, painless, and non-invasive. Nothing is being put into the body. Negative ions attract positively charged toxins. Positive ions attract or mobilize negatively charged toxins. The presence of urea, glucose, and creatinine molecules in the bathwater after the ion cleanse has been used has been confirmed. I note this every time because it's really important. It's proof that what is in the water is not just from the water or the plates or the salt. What is in the water is also from the body. Um, the second way the ion cleanse detoxifies is through the relaxation response. This is proprietary to the ion cleanse by AMD. No other detox foot bath offers this or can match this. You can only get this from the ion cleanse. We use a clean, filtered bioelectrical frequency with our medical grade power supply. Only foot bath on the market that does that. This elicits the parasympathetic response, which empowers your body's natural detox pathways for greater excretion of toxins. More detox happens in the days and hours following a cleanse than what happens during the actual foot bath. One study has shown an average 108% increase in heavy metal excretion through urinalysis during the 5 days following a foot bath. What does that mean? We had a group of men. We tested excretion of heavy metals through urinalysis for 5 days. We then administered one 30-minute foot bath, just one. After that single 30-minute foot bath, we again, through urinalysis, tested excretion of heavy metals for the following 5 days. And we saw an average increase of heavy metal excretion of 108%. That means across the group, the average, they more than doubled their excretion of heavy metals. That is just proof that the ion cleanse works. That's proof of eliciting the parasympathetic response, and it just backs up everything we say. Um, Again, just to recap for visual learners out there, how does the ion cleanse work? We create ions in the water through electrolysis. Those ions mobilize or release toxins that are stored in your body. Some of those toxins are pulled out of your body through your feet into the bathwater. A majority of those toxins are eliminated by your body through its own natural detox pathways in the days following the cleanse. The focus of today's talk will be on gentle detox and why it's better. Okay, the art of low and slow. My first encountering of low and slow made no sense. Made I'm sorry, I misspoke. Not low and slow, but less is more. Why less can actually do more. My first encounter with less is more, I didn't understand what it was. And I didn't understand what it was until I was a young adult and I was working in a kitchen, which is why I got confused with low and slow. And I was making scones and I was over kneading the dough. And the chef in the kitchen told me less is more. Charles, this is one of the situations where less is more. That's when I understood how less can be more. You didn't want to over knead the dough. And it's the same thing with detox. We don't want to overdo the detox. And the IonCleanse is built around this principle. So the problems or issues with a more aggressive detox. Many detox programs promise fast results, strict diets, harsh supplements, extreme protocols. These approaches often push the body too hard, too fast. When the detox pathways are overwhelmed, detox responses can increase. Fatigue, headaches, irritability, skin flare-ups. And for sensitive individuals, intense detox can really backfire. Muscle loss, blood sugar imbalance, slower metabolism, upset stomach, fatigue, headaches. And this is like some detox diets or juice fasts or supplement programs. They're not the best for everybody, and more often than not what you need. Um, we don't heal by shocking the body. We heal by supporting the body. And if you can think about it, what's more supportive than 30 minutes of me time 2 or 3 times a week? Not many things. What the body actually wants is a lower and slower detox. Your body is designed to detox naturally every single day. It doesn't need to be forced, but it can use encouragement. It's looking for balance, not chaos. When detox is gentle, the body stays in a parasympathetic, healing driven state longer and more often. This gentle detox keeps the body safe, steady, and able to keep up with it. Again, the opposite of a more aggressive or faster detox program that often involves you ingesting something or taking something, which is the exact opposite of the ion cleanse. Detox shouldn't be punishment. It shouldn't feel like punishment. It should feel like support. So when you're doing it, you're smiling like the lady we see in the picture here. Like that's what you're looking for. Um, Detox is not just chemical, it's neurological. Specifically, your body's autonomic nervous system plays a key role. You've heard me say sympathetic, parasympathetic, and talked about them in talks before, and I'm going to go over them again now because it's so important. This system and your body can be in one of two states, sympathetic or parasympathetic. Sympathetic is best described as fight or flight, whereas parasympathetic is best described as rest and digest. And this graphic here might look, powerful, but it's a very good description. I mean, it's they're literally polar opposites of each other. Your body detoxes much better when you feel safe. Feeling safe activates the parasympathetic system, and detox pathways are empowered. Aggressive detox stresses your body. Feeling stress activates the sympathetic nervous system, and detox pathways can downregulate or even shut down. So let's talk a little bit more about the sympathetic, right? Fight or flight. Heart rate increases, respiratory rate increases, your blood pressure increases, and your pupils even dilate, while digestion and urine production actually decrease. This is the opposite of what we're looking for. In the parasympathetic state, rest and digestion actually increases. Your heart rate slows down, your respiratory rate slows down, your blood pressure goes down, your pupils don't dilate as much. This is a state where you want to be, this relaxed state where your body is able to detox. Harsh detox often mobilizes more toxins than the body can safely handle. Mobilizing toxins only isn't the goal. Mobilizing and eliminating toxins is the goal. What am I talking about? Mobilizing, eliminating. What does this mean? Mobilization is when toxins are freed from the body's storage areas, fat, other tissues, those voltage gated ion channels. Elimination is when these toxins are actually exiting the body through the body's natural detox pathways, your body doing what it's supposed to do. Urine, stool, sweat, breath, these are all modes of detox. Mobilizing toxins without eliminating them would be like dumping your trash barrel in your yard, when what you need is your trash barrel taken away. Gentle detox, this slow and steady detox, allows the body to actually process what's being mobilized. It keeps elimination pathways open and flowing, and it avoids overwhelming the liver and kidneys and supports bowel motility so toxins can bind to bile and exit properly. Mobilized toxins are processed by the body's detox pathways and eliminated gently through the body. This is that gentle detox. And the opposite of the trash can spilling in your yard is the trash truck coming and picking up the barrels. Look how nice this looks. This is what we're looking for. The IonCleanse fits this approach of low and slow perfectly. We use a low level current, warm water, and ion exchange to support the body, not overwhelm it. There's no forcing, there's no pushing. Again, no, not even ingesting anything. The experience itself of taking or having a foot bath, it's calming and grounding and relaxing. It puts people into the state where detox naturally happens. This is why everyone, children, adults, neurodivergent, neurotypical, with or without complex or chronic illness, can tolerate the IonCleanse so well. Kids who are sensitive to supplements respond well to the gentle, passive nature of foot baths. Sensitive adults, those allergic or reactive to many other modalities, tend to tolerate the gentle detox of the IonCleanse very, very well. Individuals with chronic illness and or impaired detox pathways, whether autoimmune or chronic infections, need protocols like the IonCleanse to minimize or even avoid detox responses. People who are environmentally overloaded with toxins, and almost everyone has constant low-level toxic exposure. Everyone on the planet. You need steady maintenance rather than episodic extremes of detox. A once-a-year cleanse, or however you want to do it, episodically, is not the correct approach. A regular, consistent, effective, gentle, non-invasive detox approach is what you need. And that's exactly what the IonCleanse offers. Effective detox doesn't happen in intensity. It happens in consistency. Small repeated inputs, big changes over time. Gentle detox respects the body's capacity and it builds the body's resilience instead of draining it. Gentle detox is better because it works with the body and not against it. And now it's time for your questions. We can use the chat feature or the Q&A to ask questions. Feel free to let them come. That presentation was a little bit less dense than some of the previous ones I've done, but there was a lot of information, and I would really encourage anyone, if you have a question, to go for it. Now's the time, everybody.
Here we go.
There were a few hormone levels mentioned in one of the slides. Can you elaborate? I think you're referring to the graphic with sympathetic and parasympathetic. I'm going to pull that back open, see if I can find it. If you're referring, are these, is it, if this is what you're referring to? Not sure. Um, Debbie, could you speak more clearly about how these chemicals might relate to sympathetic and parasympathetic?
What chemicals?
Like where it says norepinephrine and epinephrine for
Oh,
sympathetic.
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
No, you're
So,
good.
so those are the kind of things that are ingrained in the body that induce fight or flight. So you, if you needed to run from a tiger or a bear, or you had an urgent or a more modern situation, if you had to get out of a situation very quickly, you're going to want those things. You're going to want the energy from your body to pull away from digestion and urine production and go to your heart rate so that you can get blood to all of your muscles to run faster, to move quicker, to address whatever is going on. It's like that adrenaline rush. A lot of people could relate to that. And then the parasympathetic is where you can calm down, and those other things like detox and digestion and respiration and all of those things, blood pressure, those kinds of things improved when you're at rest.
Thank you. How often should we use the IonCleanse? The first question from Penny. Great question. It really differs for everybody. Um, a major difference representing IonCleanse, we can only speak to it in terms of detox and detoxing. And so you're for not in relation to any illness, condition, anything like that. For general detox, people should between 15 and 50 should go 3 days a week for 30 minutes. And over 50, we recommend 2 days a week for 30 minutes. If you're working with a practitioner who's familiar with your health history and you have specific goals and they advise a different program or protocol, by all means, work with them as to what they're advising. I can only speak to just general detox. Same thing with does it help with parasites? I can confidently say that IonCleanse is a very effective detox modality. We don't have any research where we have shown or seen parasites in foot bath water, but there certainly have been practitioners sharing images and stories with us and um, testimonials where people have seen parasites in foot bath water, but we don't have any data specifically on that. Again, our research is focused on proving the science behind the IonCleanse, mobilizing toxins in the body, eliminating those toxins in the body, like literally in the foot bath water and also in the days following the cleanse. Can it hurt someone with arrhythmias? I'm going to defer to Debbie on this one.
Okay. Um, that's kind of a question that's a little bit impossible to answer. As someone with arrhythmias, I can tell you that it doesn't make mine worse in any way. In fact, mine often improve with the um, relaxation response from a foot bath. Everyone's situation is a little different. Some people have a pacemaker. If you have a pacemaker, then you're not an appropriate person to use the IonCleanse. So it kind of depends on your situation. If the person that wants to use the foot bath has had arrhythmias to the point that they are using a pacemaker, then that's a hard no. Just because this is an electronic device and you're not supposed to use the IonCleanse if you have a pacemaker. Aside from that, it's not something that I personally, as a practitioner, would be very concerned about. I have hereditary AFib. My dad has AFib. I have AFib. And so I have arrhythmias and things like that. And it's never been an issue for me in any way. I would recommend if you're going to give it a try and you have arrhythmias and you don't have a pacemaker, that you definitely make sure that you go into it well hydrated And I would say within an hour of a meal. So you don't have to worry about any possible blood sugar dips or anything like that. But aside from that, I don't have any concern myself personally as a practitioner using it with people who have arrhythmias.
Debbie, you said within an hour of a meal. Does that mean an hour before you eat or within an hour after eating?
I'm sorry, after. Yeah, because some people have a little bit of a blood sugar dip. It's one of the things that actually people who are diabetic like about the ion cleanse. Um, but if you have a tendency to be hypoglycemic in any way, that can kick in arrhythmia if you have both. So that's why I said, I'll try to eat within maybe 30 minutes of an hour prior to starting the session.
Awesome. Penny, difference between solo and premier. I did a webinar on this a couple months ago. I will send you that link, but very generally, the premier is designed for practitioners and the solo is designed for home use. The premier comes with 5 preset modes. Of those modes, 3 of them are cleansing modes. Modes 3, 4, and 5. Mode number 3 is the most commonly or consistently or regularly used mode by practitioners. And so much so that we introduced the Solo 5 years after introducing the Premier. The Solo comes standard with mode number 3 from the Premier. Identical technology, identical efficacy, identical cleansing. It's just as strong. The Premier just has more programming than the Solo does. And I'll send you that webinar, Penny, after the call. It's also on our YouTube channel. It's the Polarity webinar. I believe it's called IonCleanse Solo versus Premier. It's on our YouTube channel. You can watch it there as well. I'm sorry, Susan, how many sessions would you suggest be a good maintenance program for clients? Maintenance, we recommend a once a week maintenance cleanse after consistently cleansing with the Ion Cleanse. And then, again, this is just for general detox. There might be times when consistent regular cleansing is needed, depending on specific goals or outcomes. But very generally, someone purchases an Ion Cleanse, they're just looking for an excellent detox modality. We recommend that 3 days a week between 15 and 50. 2 days a week over 50. And then after maybe 3 months or 6 months or even longer, it's different for everybody. The goal would be to get to a once a week maintenance cleanse. If you've been cleansing consistently for 3 or 4 months and you think you're ready for that once a week maintenance cleanse, just go for it. Start cleansing once a week. If you notice more brain fog or you notice you're not sleeping as well or you're dragging in the day, add in another ion cleanse that week. And see if that helps. And maybe you still need 2 a week, maybe you still need 3 a week. It's just different for everyone. There's no set answer. Debbie, do you want to add anything there?
Um, I would say I don't consider once a week to be a goal. I think that it's fine for maintenance. And if just exactly like you said, if someone sees some improvements that they've experienced slipping away, then they can go back to a couple of times a week. But I don't necessarily consider it a goal to get to once a week. I think twice a week minimum is optimal for most people for maintenance.
Awesome.
And it could be different, if you're dealing with certain conditions and things. But again, just general use.
Penny, can this eliminate mercury toxicity? We do have a heavy metal study on the website. Some people in the group showed a reduction in mercury. Individual people in the group also showed increase in mercury, which could have been from exposure during the study. It's difficult to say exactly why, but the Ion Cleanse does detoxify heavy metals. Regarding how you would test for heavy metals released in the water, that's tricky. I would think the best, like if you're really interested in doing that, the thing you would want to do is test your water supply, just the water itself for levels of metals. Run a foot bath with no feet in it, just the Ion Cleanse, the array, and the water. Test that for whatever it is you're looking for, and then run a foot bath with your feet in the water and test that. And the differences between the feet and the no feet are going to be from you. Now, that's out of many people's reach, which is why we do the research we do to prove to you that the detox is happening, heavy metals are detoxified. That being said, if you're at a practitioner or and you're looking for heavy metal reduction, you can test your own heavy metals. And we have countless people that have done this, that have they know they have heavy metal toxicity. They start cleansing with the IonCleanse. They're cleansing 2 or 3 days a week, and they test their levels in 30 days. They test their levels in 60 days, and they see reductions in heavy metals. Anything you'd like to add, Debbie?
Um, I think this calls into, the whole aspect of testing for heavy metals. There's so much controversy about that just by itself. I think if you want to 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 look at just something that's not controversial, which would be the comparison of a foot bath with no feet and a foot bath with feet. And this would follow into the question Penny has coming up about how do you test for heavy metals released in the water. When this was done, they used a independent lab called Genova, very well respected lab that or Genova was what we'd use for the urine testing, wasn't it? But anyway, it was independent testing. So you can see things go up or down. The problem is, you want to see things go up on excretion, right? So sometimes people will run a test and be confused by, oh my gosh, there was more mercury in my urine, or there was more, right? Whenever they're going through some sort of protocol with a practitioner. But if you're trying to get something out, you want to see excretion go up because it's when your body is holding on to it that that's not good, right? And then over time, you can see that excretion generally go down because you have helped get rid of some of the bulk that was stored in the body, if that makes sense. Does anybody know? Do you remember, Charles, who Dr. Ingles used for what independent lab he used when he tested the water? Because I'm trying to answer Penny's question right below, but I don't remember. We could
No,
ask
yeah,
him. Penny, you
yeah.
could message
There's,
me, and
yeah,
I'll try to find that out for you. Which lab he used? I don't remember. It might
yeah.
have been Genova.
There's a very well respected chiropractor, Dr. Darren Engels, and he uses the IonCleanse, and he was a skeptic at first, and he got one, and he did this exact heavy metals test. He ran foot bath with no feet in it, and then he ran the foot bath with his feet in it, and then his partner also ran the foot bath without feet and with their feet in it, and they tested, and they both saw elevated levels of the heavy metals in the foot bath with feet. And that's why to this day, he recommends the IonCleanse to his patients and customers and clients. Susan, also, can you explain when all positive or all negative is needed? Are there studies to show the ion will take out vaccines? No studies on the vaccines. That's way too new yet. But stuff in the vaccines like metals and things, yes, we can show heavy metal reduction. Can you explain when? Go for it, Debbie.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, there's no test for that. So we can't, at this time, it's not possible to have a study for something that there isn't a test for.
Can you explain when all positive or all negative is needed? All positive and all negative are available as modes 1 and 2 on the Premier, generally for practitioner use. Oftentimes to determine which of the next 3 modes are best suited for the individual using the IonCleanse in the office. And then sometimes practitioners might use those for a cleanse with a specific goal. Because more than likely you have a multitude of toxins in your body, both organic and inorganic, as well as environmental toxins, you're going to have different polarities of toxins in your body. That's why the IonCleanse Solo goes back and forth between positive and negative polarity. When it's in positive polarity, it's creating an abundance of negative ions. It's mobilizing those positively charged toxins. Generally speaking, inorganic toxins like heavy metals. When it's in that negative polarity, it's creating an abundance of positive ions, mobilizing negatively charged toxins. Generally speaking, organic toxins, mold, candida, yeast, Lyme die-off, things like that, gram-negative bacteria. Environmental toxins can be either positive or negative. So generally speaking, for most people at home, you're going to want the solo and you're going to want a mix of both positive and negative polarity.
I think another important point to add here is sometimes people get really fixated on polarity, and the mix is really important. And it is recommended that people not, if people do want to go heavier in one direction or another, that they not do that right away. That you start out with the mode three. I mean, unless you're working with a practitioner that has a specific reason for wanting to change this up, um, generally speaking, it's best to use mode three for 6 months before trying to tinker with that in another direction. Because what often happens is people will herx too hard and things like that if you just try to go all negative or all positive. The reason that um, the mode three mix of positive and negative was chosen is because after much experimentation, that was found to be the best mode, like the most well tolerated, best results. That's why it's there. So I would encourage people to use that mode and take advantage of the dual polarity.
Thank you. Krista Gray, can we share the info being sent to us later with our clients? Absolutely. It's why we send it. I need something short, complete, and enjoyable to support their practice. Happy to help. That's awesome. I see that question in the chat as well. I'm going to move from the Q&A to the chat. Sandra and Krista both asked a question about sharing it. 100%. If you've registered for a previous webinar, you've already received the video link for that webinar in the slide deck. I'll do the same thing for today, and feel free to use it. Absolutely. Diane and Bill, how do I start? The person who suggested IonCleanse told me 45 minutes, 3 days in a row, 1 day off, 3 days, etc. Again, AMD's response to that is between 15 and 50, 3 days a week or every other day for 30 minutes. If over 50, 2 days a week. Separated Sunday, Wednesday, Monday, Thursday, however you want to do it, 2 days a week, again for 30 minutes. Anything to add, Debbie?
Yeah, I would not start anyone out at 45 minutes. That's just, I mean, there might be a reason. I'm not sure who the person was that suggested that. I'm not sure what's behind that. But even if the goal is to get to 45 minutes, I would not start anyone out at 45 minutes. And this is coming from me who does 55-minute sessions. So it's not like it's not that I'm against the longer sessions. I think longer sessions can be very beneficial, but that's not a starting point in my opinion. I think that's just asking to get uncomfortable. And one of the wonderful things about the IonCleanse is how gentle it is and how easy it is. And so if someone wants to go to a 45-minute session, I'm all for that. But I think that they need to work their way up to that. And I typically recommend like 5-minute increments. So let's say you started out at 20-minute session, for example, then you would go to like a 25 and then you would go to a 30 and that way, gradually. And if you start to experience any kind of herx or anything along the way, then you can always go back to your previous times, your previous session length and where you were comfortable and stay there for a little bit longer. But like I said, I'm a big fan of the long sessions. I don't do long sessions back to back. So the 3 days in a row is I mean, very rarely have I ever done long sessions back to back. So I think that is just a little too much. I think it's important for people to remember that ATP is used in the detox process. And sometimes if you attempt too much detox, you can actually deplete ATP and end up detoxing less than if you hadn't pushed quite so hard. So more isn't always better. I think it's really good to give the
Less
body.
is more.
Yeah, exactly. It often is. It often is.
Debbie, you said gradually increase by 5 minutes. Would you say like maybe after 2 weeks, try the 5-minute increase?
Yeah, this is one of those things where I know that everybody would love to have a protocol where this is what we do and you should always do it like this. But for me, and I think most people who've been using the IonCleanse for a long time would tell you there isn't a perfect protocol that everyone follows. And that's one of the things that I actually love the most about the IonCleanse is how easy it is to tailor it to individual needs. And that's one of the reasons that we provide so much support there in the Facebook groups is because that way somebody can come in and they can ask, they can say, hey, I've been doing this, this, and this. And this is why I always recommend if somebody comes in there where I am providing consulting practitioner support that they tell me in their question, how long have you been using the Ion Cleanse? How many minutes? And how frequent are your sessions? And are they consistent? You provide that information in the beginning. It helps so much to answer questions about should I increase? Tell me how you're feeling. Tell me, if you have a chronic health condition, all of those things come into play in recommendations. There are just some general recommendations, and like you said, those kind of come with your unit that give you a great base to start with. But for specifics of how long to stay at each step, really depends on the client I'm working with.
Yep. If you have a solo and a Premiere, all the modes in the modes 3, 4, and 5 in the Premiere as well, come standard at a 30-minute preset. Including the solo. You turn it on, you hit start 3 times, you'll be cleansing for 30 minutes. If you want to go lower or more, before you hit start the second time, you have the option to change the time. And you just do that with those plus or minus buttons. Plus adds time, minus takes away time. So it's very, very simple. It will
Right. And
always the go for it.
yeah, sorry. Sorry. I was just going to say, and we've also had some clients who have come who have been super sensitive and they have increased in 1 minute increments. And that's one of the wonderful things about those little buttons is that you have that capacity to tailor it so specifically if you need to. I mean, almost everyone is able to tolerate the 5 minute, shift. But for those people, those rare few who are really, really sensitive, the 1 minute is perfect. And that's a great way to use that on your machine to just go up or down in a minute or two, if that's what you feel most comfortable at.
Jay Groover asks, would you recommend taking a binder along with the foot bath? You can take a binder along with the foot bath. There's no contraindication there, but I would not say it's required or necessary. If your practitioner is recommending it, again, I would say default to your practitioner, but outside of that, I would say it is unnecessary. Debbie?
Um, this is a common question, and I would say that we definitely have a lot of people out there who have the perception that a binder is a requirement for using the IonCleanse. And I know where that comes from. It comes from every practitioner, myself included, when we went through our schooling, we were always taught detox, use a binder. The problem is none of those textbooks are taking in consideration the Ion Cleanse by AMD and how gentle it is and how it works with the body. Those recommendations were based on things like chelation, where you're forcing the body to detox in ways that are sometimes very hard for some people, and for some people, not even tolerable to experience. Um, for example, myself, I was so toxic coming out of the environmental science field that, and I live in an area, I don't know if anyone out here listening is familiar with the state of West Virginia, but if you are, I live in the area called the Chemical Valley. Now, I live in a rural area, thank God, outside of that, right? But that's where I worked, where we ran samples for all the nastiest chemical plants you can imagine. And so the nurses and people in our area were very familiar with that kind of sickness. And coming out of my situation, I was flat out told, do not attempt chelation. There's no way. You're not healthy enough to attempt chelation. Don't do it. Don't try it. And, I'm not saying that, there are some practitioners we have who use chelation. There are some practitioners we have who use the ion cleanse in combination with chelation. But what I'm saying is all the textbooks and the things that our education were based on those more aggressive types of detox, which binders are required if you're doing those things. Whereas the perk of the ion cleanse is it works so naturally with your body that you don't have to ingest anything extra to use it. Now, there are some people who feel more comfortable using a binder. Maybe they feel more comfortable physically, or maybe they feel more comfortable feeling in their mind like, okay, I'm binding this. And that's okay. If you want to use it, if your practitioner recommends you use it, it's fine. They're compatible modalities. But from what I see in many, many years consulting in the groups, and I especially see this in children, is sometimes when people automatically start a binder before seeing if they actually need one, they just automatically, I'm starting the ion cleanse, so I'm going to start these binders. they will sometimes have side effects from those binders. And it's very hard for me when I'm trying to assist that person to try to sometimes differentiate between what's happening there. And so that's why I recommend people start the IonCleanse and see what happens. If something arises that you see the need for a binder, but you know, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of people now with the IonCleanse, and I can tell you I've never put a single client on a binder. Not one. And I've never worked with anyone as toxic as I was when I started using the ion cleanse and I didn't use a binder. But like I said, some people feel more comfortable on it. And if they do, it's a compatible modality. But I see a lot of little kids come in that they thought they had to start a binder and then the binder triggered constipation. And then that started this whole spiral. I mean, if anybody here's listening is from the autism community, you know how much constipation can spiral behaviors and all sorts of problems. And they'll ask me, is it the ion cleanser? How do I change this? And I'll say, well, how about we try pulling out the binders for like a week or 2 weeks? And every single time it's resolved the problem because the problem's been the binder. So that's how I feel about binders. I mean, I know it's a long answer, but the summary of that would be it's definitely not required. It's compatible if you want to.
Perfect. Kim asks, is it okay to use filtered water with the ion cleanse? Absolutely. Um, Pure H2O, if it's like distilled water, is an insulator. It's not a conductor, so it won't conduct electricity. You might need to add more salt than you would at your home with tap water. We include salt with every purchase. The salt is only to increase the mineral conductivity of the water. It is not necessary for every water supply. It's just you may not need to add salt. If you live in a state like Arizona with a high mineral content in the water, you might have too much salt or too many minerals in your water for the ion cleanse. We have a different solution for that. So yes, you can go ahead and use filtered water. You just want to make sure that your amps are between 1.8 and 2.5, and that the volts are between 10 and 20. Salt is not really used to control the amperage or anything like that. It's just used to increase the mineral content of the water so the electricity can effectively flow through it. Carol, how is this different from less expensive models? Awesome question. It's very different. Number one, the IonCleanse is the only detox foot bath that's actually engineered to be a detox foot bath. Every other one is an imported either power supply, power converter, battery charger that uses grid electricity. There's no medical grade power supply. You're getting grid electricity, leakage current, AC ripple, hazardous voltages. None of these will enter you into the parasympathetic state. That's why the IonCleanse uses the medical grade power supply. The IonCleanse also has a patent on dual polarity, an essential part for eliciting that parasympathetic response. If you look at the IonCleanse array, the patent is stamped on it. The array goes back and forth between positive and negative polarity. No other device can do this. These technological advances are why the IonCleanse is the price that it is, and they are what separate it from every other foot bath on the market. There are more reasons, Carol. I'm going to follow up with you afterwards and explain a few more things, but very differently, detox foot baths have a bad name to some people because of every non-IonCleanse detox foot bath. Like literally every other one is a toy and potentially dangerous outside of the IonCleanse. And I'm not and I don't even know what the word to use. I'm not speaking metaphorically. Like that's genuinely it. No other detox foot bath does what the IonCleanse does. We created this category over 20 years ago. People have tried to knock it off and say they do similar things, and they're just not, it's not even close. Rick Jones, do you recommend taking any type of binder? We just talked about that. You got relatively sick from a session. If you're speaking of an IonCleanse session, sometimes people do get a detox response post IonCleanse session, and this is what we look at as evidence of the IonCleanse working. It's your body responding to those toxins being mobilized in your body. And if you have any type of detox impairment or very heavy toxic burden, your body might not be able to eliminate those toxins. Very generally speaking, if you are experiencing a detox reaction with the ion cleanse, there's two ways to handle it. One is you dial back that cleanse if the response is very strong, shorten your cleanse time. If the response isn't that strong, or you can deal with it, typically speaking, I would say power through it. Generally speaking, after 2 or 3 weeks of cleansing, your body's really getting to that parasympathetic state. You've begun eliminating those toxins that were mobilizing, and your detox responses will subside. Debbie, do you have anything to add to that?
Um, if someone comes to me with this type of question, what my first question is, what do you mean by sick? Because, and I'm not asking Rick to put his personal private information here on the chat, but I think it really depends on what the person means by sick. Because my answer is very, very different depending on that. There are some rare instances where people have had suppressed viruses and things in their body. And then when they start to detox, their body is finally able to kind of deal with that. And that would be an actual sick, right? And that has been in there all along, affecting their health, but their body never tried to bring it forward and deal with it. If that's the question, then, you got to deal with that thing, whatever that thing is that came up to the surface. But most of the time when people say this, they're referring to detox responses, body aches. When I got Lyme and did my regular session like nothing, my regular 55-minute session, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck the next day. And I know enough about detox responses to know exactly what was happening, but it had literally not occurred to me to change my session length, and I had just gotten Lyme and I was in the height of it. It was really, really bad. And I knew what had happened. So I just took it easy that day as much as I possibly could, drank lots of water, and I felt better by the next day. And then I turned my session length back to 20 minutes. 20 minutes I could do comfortably without any kind of uncomfortable Herx response. And then I just gradually inched it right back to my usual session length. But so again, it just kind of depends on what the person means by that when they say they didn't feel well after a session. That's why our groups are great, because people can come on, they can give us a little more details, or they can private message me through there if they want to just run something extra by me and get my feedback on that. But like I said, just kind of depends on what you mean by that. But most people, they do their sessions and they feel great. So, but you do have this percentage of people that may have a detox response or something else going on. So for that, it's just kind of one of those situations you need just a little more detail.
Marianne, can you do a foot bath while you have an active cold? Or should you wait until you're feeling better? I do foot baths when I don't feel well, and I think I think they're beneficial personally. And I've had a lot of people we work with say the same thing. Debbie, do you have anything to add to that?
I love to do a session if I have a cold or COVID or the flu or anything like that. The only caveat that I would say is if you're dehydrated, wait. If you're dehydrated, wait. If your blood sugar is low, you need to wait a little bit. But as long as you're well hydrated, yeah. I mean, I know my personal experience is that I get a lot of clearing in my sinuses, in my chest, because of the chronic medical issues that I have. I experience a lot of respiratory issues. And so if I get sick, it's dangerous. Even a small cold can be very dangerous. And I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that doing IonCleanse sessions kept me out of the hospital on three separate occasions while I had COVID. And it wasn't that it treats the COVID. It's not anything like that. It's just that my respiration, my blood oxygen level, all those things were dipping too low. And I was hitting the point where I really hope I don't have to go to the hospital. And I could do a session, one of my really long sessions, and I would have so much clearing in my head and in my lungs. My blood oxygen level would improve. And it was temporary because, I'm still fighting the crud, right? But that temporary effect would last me 2 or 3 hours, which made a huge difference in how I felt. And so, you're not treating the illness, but you're kind of supporting the body through the illness, is how I would describe that. And that experience is something that we've seen so many people share, within the support groups that, I've seen so many comments from moms. Oh my gosh, yes, the first time that, we see the slightest symptom of anything, we get everybody's feet in the water. That's pretty much the norm. So unless you're dehydrated or you're experiencing low blood sugar, yeah, I have no concern about cleansing if you have a cold.
Awesome. Patricia, I have arthritis and osteoarthritis. About how many times a week should I use my machine? I would say, again, between 15 and 50, 3 days a week, over 50, 2 days a week. These are great places to start and see how you respond to it and how you feel. Debbie, if you have anything to add, by all means.
Yeah, I like 3 times a week. I don't even put a 50-year-old limit on that with my clients. So yeah, I like 3 times a week. Spread out. Sometimes you say 3 times a week and people think Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you take a break. That's not what I mean. I mean like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, whatever works best for your schedule. But I find that keeping consistent days helps people to stay consistent with their sessions, and staying consistent is really important.
Ann Rose Peach, I'm on a water well. I'm using more salt to get the volts down lower, though I am not getting as much heavy metal out. Why? Again, it's really fascinating to see what happens in the foot bath. And the color change is fascinating, and the particles that you see are fascinating, and it can be different every time, and it's different for different people in your household. But more detox is happening in the days that follow your foot bath than what happens with your feet in the foot bath. So it's really hard to say after that session more heavy metals aren't coming out unless you're really testing your heavy metal excretion and you're testing the water for heavy metals and you're doing that comparison of water with and without feet, which is just out of almost anybody's ability or capacity. So I'm not sure why, and but if you've been doing testing and you had seen a drop in heavy metals and now you're at levels where that are still too high, but you're not seeing any movement, there could be something else going on there. I don't think it's necessarily related to the water well or the salt. Again, adding if you're not getting good color change, adding salt can impact the color change, but some of that color change is coming from the ions interacting with the salt, right? If the volts are between 1.8 and 2.5, I'm sorry, the amps are between 1.8 and 2.5, your volts are between 10 and 20, that's where we're creating that clean biocompatible frequency. We know it's creating ions mobilizing toxins. We know it's eliciting that parasympathetic response. You are detoxing. Debbie, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, water well is something we get a lot of questions about. And there are sometimes people think that they can't use the IonCleanse if they're on a water well. So I just want to say you absolutely can. Every once in a while, you might need to tinker with the salt or things just a little bit, but that's no different than the various types of tap water all over the world, right? Um, when we went through a water contamination crisis in my area, um, praise the Lord, my grandfather had always raised me. My grandfather built the house I live in, and he raised me saying, never let anything happen to that well, Debbie. I was about 11 years old when we went on city water. Okay, when they brought city water up our road and we went on it. But we always kept the well maintained and we used it for outside activities and that kind of thing. And my grandfather always said, Debbie, always take care of that well because you never know when you might need it. Well, there I was, all those years later with this terrible water contamination crisis. They were saying our water was safe and people were blistering, taking showers, and I couldn't breathe with all my respiratory problems when we turned on the tap, even just to run water at the sink. I mean, that's how bad it was. And so in the middle of winter, we dug up the yard and ran the line from the well back to the house. And we were on well water, and I was using my machine for I can't remember. I want to say probably 2 years on well water before I had been to enough people's houses in the area to feel like, okay, the city water is not, I'm not reacting to it anymore. I gave them time at the water plant to change out the filters and all that thing. And so, yeah, you can totally use it with well water. I had the same gains, positive experience, all of that, and then also continued when I switched back to city water. I did switch back because we have super high iron, and that's the only reason. It's because it stains everything terribly orange. Um, but other than that, I love the well water here. But Yeah, I don't think, I mean, I don't know. This is one of those things where a conversation back and forth would be helpful, but I doubt that Anne is testing the water after every foot bath. So she's probably going on what she's visually seeing. And I just want to stress that, the water is super interesting to look at, but it really shouldn't be red. Okay. Because, like, the heavy metal study that Charles referenced in the slides, where the average was 108% increase in heavy metal detox, that was through the urine. That was all through the urine. And it's not anything you see. And I think that's where the majority of the detox occurs. Now, there are people who see metals in their foot bath water, and there are people who share those pictures in our group and talk about those things. But the data is there showing how much comes out in the urine. So just because you're not seeing it in the water, nobody should think that that doesn't mean that it's coming out. I think the visuals are fun. I mean, coming from someone who studied water for a living in my previous career, I couldn't figure out why my neck was hurting when I first started using the IonCleanse. And then I figured out it was because I was staring at the water the whole time. That's an embarrassing story to tell. But I've actually ran into several people since that they couldn't figure out why they had neck pain. And I said, "Are you looking at the water a lot during your session?" And they were, just like me. They were sitting there staring at their water, and they had an old neck injury. And they were actually aggravating their neck injury because it's so fun to watch the water do crazy things. And so I always keep that in my back pocket because sometimes there are people that, are the same way. For anyone watching, since we have the time, I'll show you this. Um, for anyone watching who wants to know what we mean by visible metals in the water, because this is a question that we get a lot. I have a photograph here that I have shared on our support groups before, but I think it's a really good indicator of how sometimes people's sessions look exactly the same in the same household, and sometimes people's sessions look completely different. So I originally got the IonCleanse because of the autism studies and my child who had severe autism, and I wanted to do anything that I could that might make her life better. And this is a side by side photograph. So there's a white line in the middle, and one side, if you guys can see this, I'm gonna try to, is that gonna work? Maybe
Not
with
with
my
your
background.
background.
Oh shoot. Let's see. Nope, not gonna work. Can you see if I hold it like this? Are you seeing that at all?
You're the invisible lady.
Well, darn it. Um, I tested this, by the way, before this webinar, and it worked perfectly. But now that we're live, it's not working. If I What if I put it above my head? Can you? Okay, not gonna work. If anybody wants to see this, I'll post it in the groups after the webinar here. But I'll describe it to you. One side is what you typically see in most foot baths, orange funk, right? The other side, mine, has more orange funk and all kinds of little dark blobs. And if you took a flashlight to these little dark blobs, they reflected back metallic. And if you would touch them, they would disappear and disperse into the water. That's what people are talking about when they say they see metals in the water. It's not hard chunks. It's little tiny microscopic bits of metals that are held together by the electrical charge in the water. That's why when you touch them, they dissipate. They're not solid. If they're solid, then it's probably something that came off the end of the plates at the end of plate life. But this, and I'm so sorry it didn't work, but this photo was so helpful for me in the beginning to go, whoa, this machine is actually doing something. Because I was doing a 20-minute session at that time, right back to back with my daughter, who was doing a 20-minute session. So same unit, same water, everything. And our foot baths looked completely different. To this day, I've never seen anyone throw as many metals into water as me, but I worked in a heavy metals lab. So, as part of my previous career. So that's what people are talking about. They're talking about that little stuff that you see, but that is not something everybody sees. And that doesn't mean that you're not detoxing heavy metals, because the majority of that is happening through urine.
Awesome. Um, Want to go back up to Patricia, who asked about arthritis and osteoarthritis. And this was implied, but I just want to make sure there's certainly no contraindications there. It's safe to use the IonCleanse if you have arthritis or osteoarthritis. So, I'm going to touch on that. Nancy, does the cleanse remove spike proteins from COVID and the vaccine? Again, we have no research that shows it's removing the spike proteins. I'm not even sure if we would be able to test for that, but we can say that IonCleanse is a world-class detox device, and we have lots of research proving detoxification of both inorganic and organic toxins, environmental toxins. If I would say we offer a 60-day money back guarantee. If you're experiencing symptoms that you think are related to those, obviously try the Ion Cleanse. It can't hurt. And if it doesn't work or you don't experience the results you want in that 60 days, return it to us. You get all of your money back. No restocking fees, no hidden charges. We're so confident the Ion Cleanse will give you a better quality of life that we make that guarantee. Anything to add, Debbie?
I just want to say, I don't know if other people can see it because for some reason on the chat, I can't reply to everyone. But I did just post that photo in the chat, but it will only either let me message Charles or host and panelist, which is me and Charles. So I don't know why I don't have the option to everyone. But I did put that photo in there. Um, and yes, Christina, we can share links to the Facebook groups. I can try to grab that while we're on here. Our primary groups, we have now these are parent ran, but we have the IonCleanse by AMD for ASD, and that is our autism group. And then we have the IonCleanse by AMD for everybody, and that's kind of everyone else.
Awesome.
But yeah, I can probably try to grab those links. Oh wait, if it won't let me post to everyone, shoot.
If you send it to me, I'll post them.
Okay.
Diane and Bill, over age 50, twice a week. Would you say Monday, Thursday, spread apart like that? Absolutely. Yeah, and again, because what we're looking for is continuing that parasympathetic response. We know the Ion Cleanse, just one 30-minute session can help for up to 5 days, detox for up to 5 days after. So putting some time in between the cleanses really, really helps maintain that. Kim, I have many clients that can only do once a month. Are they getting any benefits with that? They are getting some benefits with that, absolutely, but nowhere near what they would be getting if they were able to regularly cleanse every week. We offer the solo for home users, and if your clients cannot come into your office for time constraints or too far away, you're not local or things like that, you could always recommend they get a unit for home use. Denise, I had a I had a gal say her sessions are until the feet become spongy. Yuck. Yeah. I understand it. Long sessions. Again, we know we've been doing this for over 20 years. We have people call in with all kinds of anecdotes for us and longer cleanse times than 30 minutes. And, again, what Debbie said is after you use it for a long time, you'll be able to really gain a feel for it, determine what's best for you, and trust yourself. Diane, do you generally charge more for the longer sessions? Um, Debbie, since you're a practitioner, I'll just let you field that one.
Yeah, I don't do in person anymore. Everything I do is remote now. So I would not really have a lot of input on current pricing. And I think most practitioners do charge a little bit more for longer sessions because it's more time in the chair and also it's more wear and tear on the plates. So I think that yes, that would be common.
Diane and Bill, do you share the same array with your family members? You absolutely can. And if you're concerned about anything, you can obviously sterilize it between sessions, no problem. But I would say it's entirely appropriate to share the array between family members. Most practitioners share the array between their clients. They're just sterilizing them between uses. Rick Jones, sickly brain fog, off balance, possible histamine. Oh, how he's not feeling. Woke up 3 a.m.-ish 2 nights in a row and trouble going back to sleep. I would say that's a detox response, probably. You can add, Debbie. I mean, if you would know this more than
I'm
me.
processing what he said. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Because
Again,
you
you
were
guys, Yeah,
You're
I'm
jumping
a
around. Yeah, and I didn't know
yeah, okay.
exactly where you were. So I'm trying to read
Yeah,
and listen, and I'm not the
yeah.
best multitasker sometimes. So everything like brain fog, being a little off balance, waking in the middle of the night, all of that sounds like a potential typical Herx response to me. Now I don't think that it induces histamine. That I've not seen. I've only seen a lot of histamine relief. You know, for some people, they've reported a lot of that. I have a lot of help with my allergic reactions and histamine overload using IonCleanse. Um, so did he mention how long he was? I'm sorry, I'm trying to scroll back and find his message. No. Rick, you want to throw in there how long of a session and how frequent? We could just jump to the next one maybe. And if Rick throws
Yeah.
that, we'll circle back because, I'd love to help him. Or Rick, feel free to message me through our Facebook group and we can talk about it directly and I can try to help you with that. Sometimes I'll just give this an example for other people listening. Sometimes people are too low. Like some people will be like, I'll start out at 10 minutes. I love a 10-minute first session just to see what people's response is going to be like, myself personally. But sometimes people will do like 10 minutes once a week or twice a week and stay there. And they will actually experience what Rick is describing because they're beginning to mobilize stuff, but they're not staying in there long enough to help the body get it out. So there is that scenario. And then there's also a scenario where this place that this person started, it might be not Rick necessarily, but just anyone, might be just a little too much for them. And maybe they need to roll back just a little bit, hydrate more, make sure they're having a bowel movement every day. And those types of things that he's talking about generally will go away. So that's just to give some general recommendations. That's how I usually walk someone through something like that. And if you need more
Um,
advice, Rick, just message me.
Rinda asked, how do we find a local providers or list of practitioners? Absolutely. On our website is a practitioner locator. I'm putting the link into the chat now for everyone. I also included those Facebook group links for everyone a couple moments ago. That practitioner locator is easily found. amajordifference.com. Top center of the website says practitioner locator. Click on it, it pulls up a map. You can enter an address or a zip code, select a mile radius and find someone in your area. You can even just zoom into the map from where you are to your area and look in and find them. It's very easy to use.
Just to jump in real fast, I see Rick answered 30 minutes twice a week. My recommendation, Rick, would be to try going down to 20 and see how you feel there. See if that's comfortable for you.
Awesome. Jelena, what are most practitioners charging? It really depends on geographic location, because the practitioner's costs impact it, right? So in a more urban or metropolitan area, it might be more expensive. There's probably people in Miami and Los Angeles that are charging $95, and that's a fair price because the cost of doing business there is so high. Whereas in a more rural community, you might be seeing something closer to $35. And again, it's because the cost of business is just less in those areas. I would say an average price should be somewhere between $40 and $50 for a session. It's also common for practitioners to do packages. So let's say they're charging $50 or $55 a session. Maybe they'll do 10 sessions and it's $400 or $450. You're getting a discount for the bulk sessions. That's a really good idea. If you're curious about the IonCleanse and you've never tried it before, go into a local practitioner and there's one in every state. If you look at the map, you can see lots of states have dozens. It's a great way to try us out and see. It's also a great way to go to a professional and ask questions and get their take on the IonCleanse and how it's impacted their client base. Penny, I had an Erconia foot bath, boo, before and had lots of colors in the water. Each time I've had the solo IonCleanse, the water was just orange brown. Again, color change is not indicative of detox. That zirconia is literally a battery. You charge a battery, the electricity from the battery is going through the array into the water. It's only operating in negative polarity. I'm not sure if they were encouraging you to add anything else to the water, but we're comparing apples to oranges here. It's not even close. And again, the to equate the bath water itself with the detox is inaccurate. Color change does not necessitate detox. That color change is chemistry in the water from those ions interacting not only with what's coming out of your body through your feet, but what's within the water itself and the salt. Like if you're using an IonCleanse, the salt that you add, a competitor's device, whatever they're having you add into the water. So I would not say that that's a good way to distinguish the two devices. We absolutely have our trade-in program. If you have a competing detox foot bath model, send a email me what it is and I'll make you an offer for a trade-in. We don't do anything with these trade-in foot baths outside of recycling what we can and then disposing of them. We don't use them. We don't do anything with them. Our goal here is to just get those off the market and get the IonCleanse in your hands so you can have real detox and a real impact. We understand that those other models cost money. You have an expense in there, and to compensate for that or account for that, we offer you a discount. It's really just I don't mean to sound too salesy, but it's really just us, standing behind what we do and being a good company. That's why we have the trade-in program. Is the ascorbic acid you use different than what is sold at Amazon? Potentially. You do not have to use our ascorbic acid or vitamin C powder, but it would be really important for you to get a food grade vitamin C powder and to know that what you're getting is really vitamin C. Like what we sell, we trust the vendor, we trust the manufacturer, we know exactly what it is. As long as you're comfortable with the source you're getting it from and you believe what they say that it is, by all means, you can get it from anywhere. We offer a very competitive price on our ascorbic acid. I would say it's difficult to beat that price. However, if you're ordering online and you're not spending $200 and you have to pay the shipping, it might be a little bit more expensive. If you're looking to save money and you've identified a trusted vendor or manufacturer, by all means, get it from them. Conversely, just get a few sets of plates with your ascorbic acid. You meet that $200 minimum and you get free shipping, and it's a very competitive price. We have soft water. Is that an issue? It could be an issue, Penny, and it could be impacting that color change. Water softeners often use salts, and it's highly possible that those salts could be impacting what's going on in the water. Again, if your amps are between 1.8 and 2.5 and your volts are between 10 and 20, color change aside in the water, we know you're effectively detoxing. We know we're mobilizing those toxins, and we know that a majority of that detox is happening in the days following the cleanse. Does it matter what water is used, distilled versus soft versus regular tap? I recommend tap water mainly because it's the simplest water to warm or heat for your foot bath. You want warm to hot water in your foot bath. I would say bath temperature is best. It will cool over time. It does open the pores. It is very comfortable. Putting your feet in cold water could be uncomfortable. It's going to close the pores in your feet. It's not conducive to the cleanse. Lots of thank yous. You are all most welcome. Any thoughts or studies doing ion foot bath while receiving an IV with NAD? I don't know what NAD is. Do you have any ideas or take on that, Debbie? I'm going to Google that.
I think I know what she means, but I would rather her clarify than I know we don't have studies about specific
Yeah.
IVs or supplements. And lots of our clients are on supplements, especially in our ASD community. That is
Yeah.
more like the norm than the exception.
Yeah. I've heard people be concerned with, is it IonCleanse going to take away good things? And we don't have any research of the IonCleanse demineralizing you. What I can say is that when you are detoxing, your body's going to work better. So when you start ion cleansing, if you're taking supplements, that's great. If you're eating nutritionally, that's great. Most medicines, no contraindications. The ion cleanse is going to, again, clear those voltage gated ion channels. We're going to reduce your toxic burden. You're going to get better nutrition from your food. You're going to get better efficacy from any supplements you're taking or any medication you're taking. It's just the fact of it. Your body is going to be able to do what it's supposed to do. The ion cleanse isn't supercharging you, it's detoxing you. It's getting you back to the state where you were designed to be in, and it's getting your body back to where it needs to be to do what it's supposed to do. So if you have a concern about supplements or nutrition, you will get better efficacy from everything detoxing and maintaining an ion cleanse program.
Yeah, I mean that just to jump in there, one of the things that I saw with my daughter is she was on prescription compounded MB12 injections. And anytime that we ran out, there was a very noticeable difference with her. So I mean you could really tell whether she had them or she didn't have them, and she really needed them in her life as part of her protocol at that time. And after several months of Ion Cleanse use, we did not need them anymore. Her doctor agreed we did not need them anymore. We were able to come off of them. And that's one of the things, that's one of the reasons, like when we're talking about our kids with autism, that I tell people to start with the gluten-free, casein-free diet and detox, and then see what you've got left. Because a lot of people consider the expense of the ion cleanse, but what I noticed in my own family was how much we saved in things we no longer needed, her and myself, after using the ion cleanse consistently. And just to add one other thing about minerals, there's a lot of confusion there, and this again goes back to other forms of detox, like chelation that can pull minerals. That's something very different than the ion cleanse. There are some people, I do not recommend that most people just automatically start a mineral supplement when they start the ion cleanse, because again, that can cause symptoms, behaviors, constipation, all kinds of things. And then you don't know, like, no matter what therapy you're trying or tool you're using or whatever in life, it's best to try not to start two new things at the same time, because then you don't know what to credit for gains or what to blame for problems. And it causes a lot of confusion. But um, one of the reasons that sometimes a small percentage of people who use the ion cleanse are more comfortable when they take a mineral supplement, and this is definitely, in my opinion, a wait and see kind of situation. If you're already on a mineral supplement, you don't need to take it away to use the ion cleanse. You don't need to make any changes. But if you start to experience bone pain, which is not common, but if you do start to see that, then sometimes those individuals will be more comfortable with a light mineral supplement. And that is because heavy metals are stored in bones. Okay. So when you have an individual, and this often happens in our kids, who are very toxic, if they have so much heavy metals stored in their bones, and then they start to get that out and excrete that, what your body does is your body then tries to put the things there that are supposed to be there, like calcium. And heavy metals have a very similar chemical structure to calcium. And that's why they land in bones. The body puts them in bones. So if you're detoxing heavy metals, and this is through any form of detox, your body will try to then replace that in the bones with the things that are supposed to be in the bones. And so that is why some people who experience a little bit of bone pain feel a little more comfortable with a light mineral supplement. And that it could be just simply that maybe they're not getting enough from their diet. And that's something that you can look at from the dietary end as well if you don't want to add in supplements. So that's just my take on that.
Awesome. Diane asked, will clients generally see the water getting lighter more sessions they complete? Not necessarily. And again, the water's fascinating. People have lots of questions. It's an excellent way to get people interested in the ion cleanse, but color change is not detox. The ion cleanse is detox. And more than likely, even if they have been ion cleansing for 3 years, you're still encountering toxins in your daily life. You cannot escape them. The air you breathe, the foods you eat, the products you use, the packaging, your clothes, like we're just surrounded by toxicity. So you're always going to need to be detoxing. And the color of the water or what's happening in the water is not necessarily a good gauge of that detox.
Yeah, I want to jump in on this one too, because this is
Sure.
a question that I get a lot. And what I think is fascinating to a lot of people and hard for people to process because they think, okay, if I'm starting out and I need this detox, then will it get lighter and lighter as things get better? No. I'm just going to say no. Um, Usually what happens, and you know, you can kind of have like your average individual that has your average amount of toxicity. They might see things stay very consistent. Okay. But if you're dealing with someone like a child with autism or a person like myself that has had significant exposures through their career and their lifetime, much more than the average person, what you're more likely to see in that type of individual is the sessions will look worse. Now, again, I say this with the caveat of please don't read the water, right? But I just want you to expect that people who are very, very toxic, they start out often with a certain amount of ick in the water, and it gets worse as their detox pathways start to improve and their body finds it easier and easier and easier to release. And that is where we talk about that consistency and why consistency is so important. People who start the ion cleanse will never see the gains that the people who are consistent see. And so for me personally, I started out with that the photo I couldn't show you, unfortunately, but right, it had metals, like you know, visible metals in it. And over the initial first few months of my use, that got worse, worse and worse and funkier and nastier looking. And then over time it did, you know, I don't see metals in my water anymore, which is pretty cool, I think. So in that sense, you know, I did see an improvement, but there's still just a ton of funk. My water still doesn't look like anybody else in my house's water. So I just like to prepare people, especially practitioners, for the fact that it's probably going to look worse after they've used the ion cleanse for a while, and that's a good thing. Now, some people take those comments too far and they're like, oh my gosh, my foot bath's not looking worse. Is something wrong? No, the majority of detox is happening through your urine and your stool and your sweat. So again, don't focus too much on the water, but don't expect the water to get lighter over time.
Awesome. Penny wins the participation award today. Awesome. Should we use electrolytes after a foot bath? You should 100% stay hydrated while detoxing with the ion cleanse. You should be hydrated anyway, but even more so, any detox program, you should be hydrating, and electrolytes are a great thing to incorporate. As I understand it, drinking pure water is really good for you, but it does more flushing than hydrating. You got to have some type of a mineral content or electrolyte content in that water for it to hydrate you. So, you're making a face?
Yeah, I don't agree with that. Sorry,
No,
Charles.
that's okay.
No,
Yeah,
how I would say is
that's why
that
you're here. I'm a salesperson, everybody. This is
how
our
I would say
consulting
that is
practitioner.
electrolytes help you to hydrate faster and better. But you are going to hydrate. Even just drinking plain water, you're going to hydrate. And like you said, hydration is the key because we're eliminating all kinds of things. And just as a personal example, which maybe this is TMI, but the laboratory that I used to work in when I did environmental science had a lot of horrendous smells. Okay, because we worked with so many nasty chemicals and things. I had been out of that for years when I started using the ion cleanse. And I would do my sessions in the evening, which is what we recommend for most people because most people find them relaxing. If you find a session energizing, then you should do it earlier in the day. But most people find it very relaxing. We do it in the evening. I would do my session in the evening. I would go to bed that night. My first urine of the next morning smelled exactly like the environmental science lab that I used to work in. And I mean, I'm not purposely smelling my urine, right? I'm saying it was that bad that I would get up in the morning, I would go to the bathroom, and there was this overwhelming chemical odor. And I was shocked because unless you've worked in that kind of laboratory, you don't really know how awful that smell is. And when you haven't smelled it for years, and then, oh, there's that smell, you know, and over time, that didn't happen anymore. But for probably a good, I'm going to say 2, 3 months, the session after, you know, the morning after my session, that's what that smell is. So that's just such an example of why we need to be well hydrated, right? Because look at that stuff that's coming out. You know, my daughter didn't have that. Like her diapers, she was in diapers at that time. You know, her diapers didn't have a funky smell or bad smell, but she didn't work in an environmental science lab either. But, I think that it's important, super important that we just stay really well hydrated and get all that out.
Awesome. Brenda asked, how does this compare to IV chelation? Thank you. You are most welcome. So, I'm not an expert on IV chelation, but I would say IV chelation is more akin to those more aggressive detox protocols we were comparing the IonCleanse to. Not to say there isn't a time and a place for something like that. There are instances where you might need IV chelation. This is the IonCleanse is just the exact opposite of that. It is a low and slow. We're not running a race, we're running a marathon. We're talking about long-term longevity and personal wellness. And it's just in terms of that, the exact opposite of IV chelation. But still a very effective, non-invasive detox.
And I've never seen anyone do a study of like a side by side. So I don't know really how we could answer that question unless, and even if you did a side by side, I'm not sure how you would compare because everybody has different levels of toxicity. So I'm not sure how you would compare the two. Um, my answer to that would just be that the Ion Cleanse is dramatically more gentle.
Awesome. Uh,
And now that
Jill,
she answered the NAD question, yeah,
have you
I
read
see
through
no,
it?
yeah, I did. I see no contraindication there.
Awesome. And I hope you can bundle that and offer that service. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Um, Krista's got a couple of questions. When is your next training schedules, and what is being covered? I do not have the topics for January. The webinars before November and December were always the fourth Friday of the month. In November and December, we did the third Friday because the holidays were at the end of the month, and I wasn't going to do a webinar the day after Thanksgiving or the day after Christmas. In January, they will go back to fourth Friday, and I generally pick the topic at the beginning of the month that I'll go over, maybe the first few topics. That being said, if you have any ideas or suggestions, it just things you want to go over, let me know. I do know that starting next year, we're going to introduce at least once a quarter a practitioner highlight. So there will be practitioners that use the Ion Cleanse on these calls to talk about their experience, what has worked, what has not worked, and answer questions. And they're much more prepared to answer some of these more medical type questions than I am. Again, my expertise is in convincing you to buy an Ion Cleanse. Krista also asked, do you have any AMD reps that could come out to do a full demo or hands-on training? That would probably be cost prohibitive. What I can say, Krista, is that I will lead a virtual training all day long, and I will answer all the questions that you have. And I have done that for offices before, where we take an hour or two on a predetermined day of the week. They have their staff in their room, and I lead a quick presentation. I explain everything there is about the Premiere, how it works, what all the buttons do, what everything means, and then you have all the time you need to ask questions. I'm happy to do that. There's no cost for that. I use 7 to 12 hertz via ear clips to help the client into parasympathetic. Awesome, Denise. Thanks for sharing. Joanna, what is a good gauge to tell people about the results if the watercolor doesn't change? So if people ask, how do I know this is working? You can point to our research, right? We know that it works. Alternatively, if they know they have a specific toxic exposure, mold or metals or something like that they have tested for and said, look, I have this toxicity. If they're regularly ion cleansing, and again, not once a week or once a month, 2 to 3 days a week, you will see reductions in those levels within those first 60 days. And that's why we offer that 60-day money back guarantee. Debbie, did I say something incorrectly?
No, no, it's not that. I think maybe she means something different. And if I'm wrong,
Okay.
tell me. But I think she is possibly asking about their personal results, ways to manage personal results. I could be wrong, but that's the way I
Nope,
interpreted
yep,
that question.
yep.
So to answer that, I mean, you answered the other really well. So I'll just jump in on what I think would be good options for the other. Is myself and most practitioners that I know will give someone a starting questionnaire. It can be something from AMD. What's the name of it? Charles, help me out here. Toxicity.
Toxicity assessment.
Thank you. I thought that's what it was, but I was afraid I would say the wrong name. You can use the toxicity assessment from AMD. You can use your own assessment, depending on what school you went to or things like that. You may have been taught certain assessments. I think it's a really, really great idea to do a starting assessment, especially if someone buys a package. So you have them do the starting assessment, they do their package, and have them do it at the end of that time period. Like I like a 2 month time frame before you repeat something like that, or 30 days with our kids with autism. Um, but that gives them something to compare that they answered themselves. So they gave you their opinion on all these different things with their own personal body and how they were feeling. And then you give them the document and again, and then they can compare the two. And that gives them something they answered on their own, and they can compare their two answers. For children on autism, we use the ATEC. ATEC's awesome, and it's available free. If anybody needs a link to that, I'm sorry I can't post to everyone. I don't know why there's a thing keeping me from doing that, but you can look up ATEC for autism. You can just go to Google or Bing or whatever search engine you like, put in ATEC for autism. It'll take you to the ATEC website. We recommend that you do an ATEC every 30 days. The ATEC is free. I always recommend to everybody to check the little box that says, send me a copy in PDF. Because, I don't know about every autism mom, but I know for me, life gets really crazy, right? And if I have the PDF in my email and I can just pull it up whenever I want to look at the old ones, that's really helpful. And we recommend you do a starting ATEC and repeat it every 30 days. And an ATEC is nothing that's specific to the autism, nothing specific to the IonCleanse. It's something that is used it's not diagnostic, but it is something that is used to judge therapeutic effectiveness for many different therapies that are used in the autism community and is widely respected for that. Does it encompass every single symptom and every single thing? No. And is it subjective? Absolutely. But you can answer it as the parent, and you can answer it again as the parent, and then you can look back at your previous documents. And that is also what was used in the autism studies that were done using the IonCleanse, was we used the ATEC. So it gives you something really great to compare to. If you're not familiar with the ATEC, then that is just to give you a brief idea. The higher the score, the more severe the autism. So, we've learned over the years toxicity can play a huge role in autism. It's not that the IonCleanse treats autism, it's that toxicity affects autism. And so you can look back at that. My daughter experienced over a 50% reduction in her ATEC in the first few months of use. That means the severity of her autism symptoms on ATEC dropped by half. And that's not uncommon, So those are some good things, I think, for your clients that they can use to measure. To answer her other question, what if the water doesn't change color at all? Then you need to call Debbie Williams at the office. No, we have there's a document that I can share on the group, or that's also on the AMD website, like a troubleshooting document. If you don't have color change, just follow that. And if that doesn't work, then call Debbie Williams at the office. She'll talk you through. She's a rock star. She'll know exactly what to do to get you color change. Because, we talk a lot about color change not mattering, but that's the one thing that does matter, is whether you're getting any color change or not. If you're not getting any, then there's some kind of issue between your water with the unit. And AMD has all kinds of wonderful little tweaks where you can work around that. But you do want to make sure you're always getting some degree of color change so that we know that the ions are working in the water and doing what they're supposed to do.
Awesome. Penny said RO water, no minerals, might have to add salt. Lori, is there going to be a replay? You'll get a link of this video, and it's hosted on our YouTube channel, IonCleanse. Jelena, thank you. You are so welcome. Krista, sometimes there's an odd smell when approaching the tub or person, not every time. Does this mean yeast is coming out? Could be. 100% we detoxify organic toxins. Absolutely. It's certainly those unique smells are not the machine. And that because there's no change in your water supply, there's no change in your IonCleanse. What is unique from person to person is the individual. 100%.
Yeah. And we've had people report changes in water smell depending on changes in their life. Like maybe they, ate a really poor diet for like a week or two. Like maybe they went to their family's house at the holidays and they enjoyed all kinds of things that they don't ordinarily enjoy. And they didn't do a foot bath for like a week and a half. And then they come back home and they do a foot bath and it stunk. Right? Like that's something that I've heard a lot.
No judgment, no judgment.
No judgment. It's the
Yeah,
holidays, right?
yeah.
Um,
A
but
bouquet
that
is a bouquet.
but that is an example of things that we've had reported. Another thing that I see very commonly reported is their child starts swimming and they smell chlorine in the water during foot baths. That's super common too. So sometimes odors can be something yeasty or sometimes odors are something else. But yeah, odors can happen. Absolutely.
Awesome. I see a question from Pam. Is there a concern with a client that has too much iron in their blood or liver?
You want me to take that one?
Yes, I do. How'd you know?
Okay, so I don't know if you just mean the iron's a little high or if the person actually has hemochromatosis, but I'm actually aware of a couple of different people who are using the IonCleanse in the helpful management of their hemochromatosis. If you're not familiar with that, that's an iron storage disease. Um, I myself carry two bad genes for hemochromatosis. So far, thank goodness, have not developed hemochromatosis, right? But it is something that I stay kind of in the loop about because I know my genetics for that, right? And no, I have not seen any issues. My only concern would be, say someone has iron overload, i.e., hemochromatosis, to the point where their liver is extremely compromised. Then I think there would need to be some conversations with their medical provider, and a lot of detailed, are you up for this? Yeah, any kind of detox, because a person, does need to feel well enough to go through detox. We don't want to, if a person is so sick, for example, with iron overload, their liver is shutting down and they can't hydrate, I don't know. That would be a situation that would worry me. But if we're just talking about someone who goes about their day and lives their life pretty normally, but they have high iron, I personally, if it was me, would not be concerned to put my feet in a foot bath.
Awesome. Denise asked a very specific question about the genetic mutation DDX3X and autism in the ion cleanse. Um, again, was specific when Debbie was speaking about the ion cleanse and its impact on her kiddo. Again, she said it's not treating the autism. All it's doing is detoxifying, and oftentimes that detox can let other treatment modalities work better, just like you get better efficacy from medication or supplements or better nutrition from food. When you're detox, your body can hurt. Denise, I meant the ATEC thing. Um,
Well, I think you should just take a look at the ATEC and see, if you feel like the questions are pertinent to your child or your client that you're working with. Because they're all there. You can kind of run through it. You could give it fake answers so that you see every page, and just send it to yourself, and that way you'll see the whole thing.
I
Um,
just sent one
oh,
source
good.
for the ATEC. There are multiple places that offer the ATEC, I think though. You can
Yeah,
you can find it online for free many places.
yeah, and Denise, if you're in the IonCleanse for ASD, sorry, you'd think I would know how to say that by now.
Ion
IonCleanse
Cleanse.
by AMD for ASD Facebook group. I tag everyone when I welcome them to the group in a welcome post that has in the first comment a bunch of links. And one of the links that I include there is the link to the ATEC. So if you join the Facebook group, that is ran by parents. It's a parent ran group. And you can go on there. Any welcome post will have that in the first comment below, or you can just message me and I'll send it to you. But yeah, the one that Charles has there, I think, it's not the one I use, but I think it's the same. It takes you to the same place.
Awesome. All right, hour and 45 minutes, our longest webinar yet. Pretty exciting. Awesome to have Debbie join me. It's fantastic. We'll give it a couple more minutes for anybody to ask questions. Almost everybody has stayed on the whole time. That is awesome. Really appreciate everyone's attention. Again, this will be sent to you. A link of the video will be sent to you. The slide deck will be sent. Feel free to use it however you'd like. Put it everywhere.
I see one that I think we may have accidentally skipped. Um, can the detox be hard on the kidneys? Okay, so any kind of detox could theoretically be hard on the kidneys. Um, do I think that the IonCleanse, well managed, is hard on the kidneys? No. Um, I think you need to be hydrated. And but if anything, I think it tends to be the opposite. Um, someone who is a dear friend to me has one kidney, and she didn't find that out until later in life. And switching to using the IonCleanse, and I'm not suggesting anyone stop using their dialysis, okay? I really, really want to stress that. I'm not telling anyone to skip their dialysis and go use the IonCleanse. But she uses the IonCleanse for 60-minute sessions, which, is very long, and it's kept her off dialysis. It is her method for staying off of dialysis. Now, she's carefully monitored. They make sure that she doesn't need it again. But I know someone else with a similar experience. So while I can't say for sure it's always safe for everyone's kidneys, depending on what the person's going through or whatever, I can say that in general, I don't think that the IonCleanse is hard on the kidneys because of the people I know um, who have used it with one kidney who were previously needing dialysis. How's that for an answer? I mean, I know that's not, I can't give you a firm yes or no, but I can give you the information that has been shared with me.
Awesome. I see a question. Where can we find the health questionnaire? Sahar, we talked about the toxicity assessment in this call. So when I send the email out with the link to this replay and I'll include the toxicity assessment with the slide deck as an attachment to the email. And Krista, what types of major adverse reaction have been seen documented if people passed out? I don't know of I haven't seen either of those things. I've been with A Major Difference for just over a year. I've gone to multiple trade shows. I've administered hundreds of foot baths to all kinds of people, first-time users, regular users, and I have never seen anyone have an immediate negative reaction like that. Not to say it hasn't happened. I can also say we have a perfect safety record, meaning that we've never been held to account for anything drastic like that. That being said, Debbie, if you want to add to it.
Yeah. I've personally never seen anyone pass out from using the IonCleanse. I have seen a handful of people who felt like they might, they stood up and felt a little woozy or whatever. Every single one of those situations has been solved by having a meal or a light snack before the session. So I feel like every other one of those situations that I have personally encountered have been due to the person having a touch of hypoglycemia. And then they do the session, they detox a little bit of glucose, and it's just a little too much. So every one of those situations that I've ran into, I've never seen anybody pass out, but every one of those situations where I've seen somebody get a little feeling like they might or a little lightheaded or whatever have been resolved by having a snack beforehand. I think to answer the other part of her question, I do think it's really important. This would be a great place to bring up if you have a child that's on the autism spectrum. Mitochondrial dysfunction is very common in the autism community, and sometimes those children are not diagnosed. Mainstream medical usually doesn't even test for mitochondrial dysfunction unless it's extremely severe. And so a lot of kids their parents don't even know they have some mito dysfunction. And so that is why I add the caveat for those. And this isn't a reaction, but this is a response, is if you are using the IonCleanse, especially with a child, but this can happen in adults too, oh, I need a nap or I'm tired or I'm ready to go to bed, that relaxation, that's super normal. But if it carries over into the next day and you feel extreme fatigue for an entire day, the next day, or into the next day, halfway into the next day, Those are the people I send for mitochondrial testing. Find out if you have mitochondrial dysfunction. If you have a child that does an ion cleanse and they want to sleep the whole rest of the day, pause, back off, get tested. Find out if you have an underlying mitochondrial dysfunction. If you do, work with that, get the supplements on board, and then you'll be able to use the ion cleanse successfully. But you just need to be a little more careful. And it has nothing to do with the ion cleanse itself. It's just that people who have mitochondrial dysfunction can get very fatigued from a wide number of things, and detox is one of those things. So it's not an adverse reaction, but it is something I tell people to watch for, because the attitude of pushing through is very common, because that's what a lot of people do, is they push through little bumps in the road with detox or responses and things. But if it's fatigue, if it's extreme fatigue that lasts into the next day, pause, get your mitochondria checked. You can still use the ion cleanse almost always, but you just need to, ease your way into it. And that's where the benefits of being able to tailor it to individual needs are so nice. It's not a pill you're swallowing where everybody's pill is the same dosage, or you're introducing something in the body. You can just work with a practitioner and just adjust it just a little bit until it's comfortable. So I hope that helps answer that question a little bit.
I thought it was good.
Thank you, Charles.
Awesome. Now's your chance.
Anybody else? Did we miss
Yeah,
anyone? We had them
I
coming in
don't
on
think
both
so.
sides for so
Yeah.
long, but
I
I'll
think
scroll
we
back to
talked
make sure.
about this. Jelena asked, can you use distilled water? You can use distilled water, but you probably would have to add more salt than if you were using tap water.
Right. And if you use more salt, your plates usually won't last as long. So I'm a big fan of the tap water.
Yeah.
Like I tell everybody, I run those plates until they won't give me another minute.
If you're comfortable like cooking with your tap water and brushing your teeth with your tap water, it's totally fine for the ion cleanse. All right, everyone. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Looks like there are no more questions. I hope everybody has a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. I'm not sure if Hanukkah is still going on. If it is, Happy Hanukkah. If not, I hope you had a Happy Hanukkah. Um, I don't know if Diwali is in December or not, but all the festivals, Happy Holidays. Really appreciate you and looking forward to next year.
Yes, everybody, just want to say the same thing. Hope you have a wonderful time, and wishing you all a healthy and happy new year.
Sweet. Bye, everybody.
Bye.